I just want to introduce myself. My name is Greg Samano, and I have been attending Edgewater Alliance Church probably for close to 25 years or just over that. I've been on the elder board and actually was a head elder for a number of years. I've mostly been involved in foreign missions as far as my ministry at Edgewater is concerned. And hearing that we're talking about our 50th anniversary, I just wanted to highlight some teachings that I think have been driven home for me over the years. And some of these, if you've been at Edgewater for a while, they might ring a bell. And the first thing I want to say is, it's true that we're all called into a personal relationship with Jesus, but we were also sent to be His ambassadors to a fallen world. I know that if you've been here for a while, you have heard those words where we live, work, and play, to love God and to love our neighbors, even when they might be a little hard to love. The other thing I've noticed is that we are here, and Jesus told us this, that we will suffer, but we must remember that this is not our home. Our true home is heaven. That's our true home. And because Jesus did not want us to live our life alone, He created us for relationships. He didn't want us to go through life alone. And there's going to be times when I need to be there for someone to pick them up, and they will have to pick me up from time to time. And during this time, we will develop missionary habits, and that is alerting people around us to the universal reign of God through Christ. And lastly, we must learn to look for God in everything. You know, there's a temporal world, but there's also a spiritual world. And the spiritual world, if God is on the throne of our life, we will see His Spirit and His face on a daily basis. He will guide us and direct our path, and we must learn to be obedient and join Him where He is already working. In summary, we need to know Jesus and not just know about Him. These are some of the teachings that I think that have been driven home as I have spent time at Edgewater Alliance and have listened to many of our pastors. To drive this home, I want to give you a personal testimony. You'll see some of these teachings demonstrated in this testimony. It was about 6 years ago that my wife Peggy and I decided to downsize, and we moved into a neighborhood. And shortly after we moved in there, we found ourselves at a dinner with a number of our neighbors. One couple in particular lived about a block from us, and they were next to us at dinner. And I could tell they really took a liking to Peggy and I, as I found out that he was a retired malpractice attorney. In other words, he sued doctors, and I'm a physician. So the chemistry was certainly a lot different than I'm used to. But there was something that really clicked, I guess, with them especially, because we started getting calls weekly as they asked us to go to dinner, and we would have them over to our house, and we would play some games or whatever. But it was almost on a weekly basis. I'm not giving you his name, but I'm going to call him Perry, and his wife was Sue. We spent quite a bit of time with them. But I'll share this, that it wasn't easy. Although I enjoyed them as a couple, we could tell we did not have spiritual connection with them. And the number one thing that kind of bothered me so much, especially when I was out in public with him, it was he did have a mouth that would probably make some sailors blush, if you understand what I'm saying. He didn't hesitate to use the Lord's name as an exclamation point. I told Peggy that, I struggle with that, especially being in public with them, but she reminded me that God put them in our path for a reason, and I decided to hang in there. So our relationship went on for a number of years. I had been in Montana as we were spending some time in Montana and some time in Florida. I became a true snowbird, and we had some business things we had to take care of. So we flew from Montana into Florida, and the day after we got here, I got a call at 2 o'clock in the morning from my daughter, who was hysterical, and she said, "Dad, Caden," that's my youngest grandson in Montana, had just committed suicide. Obviously, we were devastated. Caden was a great kid and had no problems, but obviously some things had happened that pushed him over this terrible edge. And the first time in our family we were faced with a suicide. We immediately flew back to Montana the next day, and Apparently Perry had gotten the word that we were in Florida and called me the next day and said, Greg, we wanted to get together with you. We heard you're here. And I said, well, I'm no longer here, and this is what happened. And I told him. What I heard for the next 5 minutes was a tirade as Perry cursed God, saying, how could a loving God, how could a God, if there is a God, how could a God allow this to happen? You're the nicest people we know. How could God allow this to happen? And I just listened to him basically curse God for 5 minutes. And it was almost at that point where he was totally exhausted and he was done that I said, Perry, can I give you another perspective? And I began to share with Perry about God and Jesus. My grandson did not commit suicide because of them. And I shared quite some time, and I finished it with this. This is what I said at the end after I told him about who Jesus was and why he came. And he was quiet the whole time, which was very unusual. I said, you know, Perry, even though you curse God, he loves you very much. And the most amazing thing happened, which I didn't think could happen, but Perry said, Greg, I would like to continue this conversation when you come back to Florida. I said, that'd be great. That'd be great, Perry. I'd love to finish this conversation. That was a Wednesday afternoon. On Saturday afternoon, my phone rang and I picked it up, and it was Perry's wife, Sue, and she was sobbing on the phone. She says, I just found Perry in our backyard. He died of a massive heart attack. I don't sit here and say that spiritually I know what happened between Wednesday and Saturday, but I know our conversation was not for naught. That God had a purpose and a plan, and he used me in that purpose and plan to tell Perry about who Jesus was and why he came. And what happened between when I hung up the phone on Wednesday and when his wife found him dead in the backyard. I pray that God had worked in his heart. And I pray that one day I will see him in eternity. I want to leave that with you because the teachings that I have just said that Edgewater Alliance Church helped me understand was how I see the spiritual world and how I see how God uses me in an everyday basis.